Good morning. Today we're going to be looking at finding the angle measures using Trig. A couple of things you need to remember are, well, the biggest thing you need to remember is SOHCAHTOA. And we covered that in the last couple of videos. Remember, sine is represented by opposite over hypotenuse. Cosine is represented by adjacent over hypotenuse. And tangent is represented by opposite over adjacent. So that's what SOHCAHTOA stands for. Now, to find the angle measure, which is going to be indicated by x degrees, you're going to find which two pieces of information you have, either opposite and hypotenuse, the adjacent and hypotenuse, or the opposite and adjacent side lengths. So let's just go ahead and look at number one. This is our angle here. So if we're looking at that angle, we're trying to determine which two pieces of information do we have. Well, we have the opposite and we have the hypotenuse. So if we have the opposite and hypotenuse, we are looking for sine, or we can use sine to find our angle. So we're going to write it as sine x, because that's where we would put our angle, equals the opposite, which is 15, over our hypotenuse, which is 24. Now, if you have a calculator, or you can use a calculator on your computer to find the sine, what you do to find this angle measure is to use this inverse of sine. So here's how that works. Sine x really means x equals the inverse of sine of 15 over 24. So there is a sign to the -1, which is called the inverse of sine, on your calculator, and it's probably above your sign button. And so you would use your shift button and the sign button, and then it's going to open up a parentheses. And in that parentheses, you would just put 15 divided by 24. And that gives you rounded 38.7. And let's just, it says round to the nearest tenth. So that is your angle measure for angle x. All right, let's look at number two. We're looking from this angle. From that angle, we're giving the adjacent side and we're giving the hypotenuse. Adjacent and hypotenuse is cosine. So cosine of x equals the adjacent, which is 8, over the hypotenuse, which is 11. So that's what you've been setting up. The only difference now is we're looking for the angle. So you're going to use the inverse cosine here, which should be above your cosine button. So the inverse of cosine, and then in your parentheses, you're going to put 8 divided by 11. And it should give you 43.34 something. So that rounds to 43.3. And that is the measure of angle x. And that's in degrees, okay? So let's look at number 3. We're given this little angle here, and we're given the adjacent and the opposite. So adjacent and opposite is tangent. So if we're finding tangent x, we're using opposite, which is 20, over adjacent, which is 37. Okay, so anytime you're looking for the angle, you're going to use the inverse. So x is really the tangent, the inverse of tangent of 20 over 37. So that's going to be above your tangent key. So the inverse tangent of 20 divided by 37 is 28.4. Okay, let's look at one more, and then you will finish 5 and 6 on your own. So let's look at number 4. From this angle x, we're given the adjacent and the hypotenuse. So adjacent and hypotenuse is cosine. So we're finding the cosine of x, which equals the adjacent, which is 18, over the hypotenuse, which is 23. So again, to find x, you're using the inverse cosine of 18 divided by 23. So inverse cosine 18 divided by 23 equals 38.5. Okay. Now, 7 through 10 is just a review of finding side lengths. So I'm going to do one of these. All right, so let's look at number 7. All right, we're given angle 39 degrees, and it has given us the opposite and the adjacent side. Okay, so that's going to be tangent. So we're going to put in tangent 39, because we're given the angle, equals opposite, which is 11, over adjacent, which is x. Now, you got to solve this problem for x. So in order to do that, you would multiply both sides by x, and you get x tangent 39 equals 11, because those x's cancel. And then you would divide by tangent 39 to get x by itself. Okay, so that would cancel, and you get x equals 11 divided by the tangent of 39. Now that's not inverse, it's just tangent because it gives you the angle. So you should get x equals 13.6. Okay, you set up the equation and solve for x in all three of the others and in the rest of this page. Let's look at the applications on 17 and 18. So 17 says a ladder leaning against a wall, so I'm going to draw a wall, and a ladder leaning against it, so here's my ladder. Make an angle of 75 degrees with the ground. Okay, so 75 degrees with the ground is here. If the foot of the ladder is 6 feet from the base, so here the foot of the ladder is 6 feet from the base of the wall, so 6 feet from here, this is 6 feet. What is the length of the ladder? We're looking for x. Okay, so we're going to set that up. We're given an angle, and we're given the adjacent and the hypotenuse. Okay, because here's our right angle. So adjacent and hypotenuse is cosine. So we're given the cosine of 75 equals adjacent, which is 6, over hypotenuse, which is x. So this is just like the problem we just solved. We got to get x by itself. So we're going to multiply by x to get it out of that fraction. That's going to cancel out there, and when you get 6 equals x cosine of 75. And then to get x by itself, you divide by the cosine of 75 on both sides. So x equals 6 divided by the cosine of 75, which you get 23.2. Okay, and that's how long the ladder is, 23.2 feet. All right, now I'm going to erase this so I can see this bottom problem. All right, it says Jaden is flying a kite and lets off 275 feet of string. So let's look. Let's make this kite here. It's 275 feet of string. If the kite is 150 feet above the ground, and assuming the string is straight, so this is 155 feet from the ground, here's the ground, it's 150 feet from there. What angle does the string make with the ground? So it's looking for the string and the ground angle, which is there. So this is like our new problems that we just learned today. So we are trying to find this angle, and we're given the opposite and the hypotenuse. So opposite and hypotenuse is sine. So we're going to find the sine of x, which equals the opposite, which is 150, over the hypotenuse, which is 275. Now remember, when you're looking for the angle, you're going to use the inverse sine function of 150 over 275. Okay, so the inverse of sine 150 divided by 275. And you get 33.1 degrees. So that angle would be 33.1 degrees. Okay, hope you understand this. If you have any questions, just let us know. Hope you have a great day.